So I just finished doing an interview about the cartel violence that broke out in Mexico. It had just occurred just hours before. Went online, talked to the hosts about what the sort of things one should do when civil unrest breaks out. I'm going to give you some tips here as what to look for. Now, this can happen anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's Mexico or anywhere else. Here's some tips that you can use to keep yourself safe when you're away and violence breaks out. Now, in particular, my concern here was for Americans that were in Mexico, because it was announced at the time that America was involved in the arrest of this cartel member, and that the cartel was going to look to exact revenge on Americans. So that was the basis for my interview here. But watch this. You're going to hear some tips on good things that you can do wherever you are if you're traveling. Keep them in mind. Employ one or two of them. Just may save your life one day.
Well, violence continues across Mexico as members of a notorious drug cartel attack police and civilian targets following the death of a drug lord on the weekend. An estimated 26,000 Canadians are in Mexico. Some are trying to leave the country. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel, one of the most powerful and feared criminal organizations in Mexico, have unleashed a wave of attacks across 20 Mexican states. They have torched businesses and set up blockades. All this followed the government's killing of a notorious drug lord best known as El Mencho, who died in custody Sunday shortly after being captured by Mexican special forces. Joining us is security expert and bodyguard to the billionaires, Ross McLean. What can you tell us about the situation in Mexico right now?
Well, from the breakout of it, this was the Mexican special forces went in and took down this drug lord, one of the biggest, most powerful drug lords in the area. When the information first came out, Mark, it was talking about that the Americans were actually involved on the ground with the takeout of this guy. When they went, they got him, and he apparently died upon the exercise to arrest him. So what happened after that is the cartel came out, started grabbing people out of their cars at major intersections leading into Puerto Vallarta and other major centers, dragging people out of their cars, killing them or not, I don't know, but then setting the cars on fire as roadblocks so people couldn't leave. Then they apparently sent out an email to everybody saying, hey, if you're a resident here in Mexico, stay in your house after 2:00 because we're going to be taken to the streets. And we're getting various information about how much they said they were going to do and how much harm and how much shooting and how much killing. And that was the situation as it broke out the other day, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, you've got this drug cartel obviously wreaking havoc after the death of their drug lord. And I think Americans are their main targets. They're upset with America. We had, of course, a call by Donald Trump for action on the cartels. And of course, their president, Scheinbaum, finally did something about it. And so I think the anger is going to be directed at Americans. But of course, in the fog of war, Americans, Canadians, they kind of look pretty much the same, Westerners, on vacation. And so what advice would you have to Canadians down there right now who are finding themselves trapped, unable to leave?
Yeah, so when this was breaking out, I saw it breaking out real time on X, of course, like everybody did. Saw the videos real time, right? This is the thing that makes things different with all the phones that are out there, the cameras, the internet, Skylink. You can see this breaking out in full time. So my big concern at the start of this was that what they were going to do was they were going to be targeting Americans. That would have been the thought. They're not going to target natives, but they might have targeted Americans. So I was putting out a series of tips and advice on my timeline for what people could do if they were down there. One of the ones that I put out, which was interesting, was I said, look, if you're American and you're down there, ditch your ID. Someone comes across you, tell them you're Canadian, not American. I had a lot of people that appreciated that was put out, and I got a lot of course jokes firing back from people. Oh, I'd never say I'm a Canadian. Why would people not realizing the seriousness of it? But of course, I do. I've sent executives into very dangerous places in the past, and people do get killed because of their ethnicity, their nationality, their color, whatever. And so the concern here would have been if they were looking for Americans, you did not want to look like an American. The next thing I suggested people should do is they have to get to a place of safety. And what I typically do when I go traveling, or I tell people when they go traveling, is I go find the top security guy, and sometimes maybe you just find the head doorman at your hotel or the resort you're staying at, and I'd give him $50. And I'd say, hey, you see this face? Remember this face. You're going to look after me? If I have any questions, if I need help, will you be able to help me? I don't want to get any bad cabs or any bad deals. You look after me? And they say, oh, they take the $50, and they say yes, right? And you can ask them about where you're going and what the problems are. So what I would have suggested there is I would have gotten a hold of that person in the hotel and say, where can I hide? Where can I hide for cover and concealment? The most important thing, Mark, being you want not only want to be out of sight where someone's not going to find you, but behind something that's pretty bullet resistant. So if they had something in the basement where they stored dried food in that hotel or something like that, you could get in there and lock that door and bolt that up, give 50 $100 or whatever to whoever's running the kitchen, don't give me up sort of thing or whatever, right? You stand a good chance. That actually happened. The other one is going to a local storefront if you're out somewhere where the store owner, I mean, they appreciate tourists, right? And you say, can I hide in your store? That happened. If you remember the Charlie Hebdo, when they were shooting Jews and everything because of the depiction of Muhammad over in France, I think it was.
Yeah.
What's the one guy did? He had a butcher store, I think it was, and he hid like 12 people in the freezer when they were going around killing people. So you want to get out of sight, out of mind, not be identifiable if that's who they're targeting for what they're looking for. But those are some of the keys that I would look at.
Yeah, I mean, to your point earlier about Americans being up to their necks in this operation, there is an exclusive by Reuters, a new U.S. military-led task force specializing in intel collection on drug cartels played a key role in the Mexican military raid on Sunday that killed the Mexican drug lord known as El Mencho, that according to a U.S. defense official. And so this has definitely been a major bone of contention between the Mexicans and the Americans. At one point, Trump threatened to wage his own attacks on these cartels and their operations and their leaders. She said no, and I guess there must have been some agreement to allow U.S. forces as well to play a role in this, and that's probably why this is going on. But this is probably going to drag on for a while, isn't it? I mean, the cartels are incredibly powerful in Mexico, and
People,
seeing a byproduct of that power as they unleash violence on the population as a result of the death of El Mencho. How long do you think this is going to drag on?
well, it depends. It depends what they do, right? The actions they take. I don't think the public is generally aware of exactly how deadly they're like a military force. They're like their own little army. These cartels. They make, all the money they make from drugs. We know how big that is, right? Everybody who watched Scarface, all the money they make from that is so much they can't hang on to it. They make more money from human trafficking, right? All the people that were going across the southern border, they made way more money from that, from doing human trafficking. As a result, they own all kinds of weapons, armored vehicles. There's even a report out that the cartel sent a couple of people over to the Ukraine to train on how to use drones to kill people, right? I'll talk to you about that another time. I know someone who was in the Ukraine with those drones. Very deadly. So if they start picking on Americans, I'm not sure where it's going to go. If they start deciding to go looking for them and killing them, I would suspect you're going to see one very, very strong response from the United States, because they know if you're allowed to pick off Americans in one spot, it'll happen in other spots. And the Canadian response to this has been interesting. Once again, I saw that at best after a couple of hours. I looked right away for the embassy down in Mexico and that part. They're closed till Monday at 9. So no help there, right? Is a 24-hour number for emergencies or something. But eventually they came out and said, oh, well, send your name to this, text it to this address here, and Global Affairs or whatever will update you on what's going on. Well, the people are already updated. I mean, they're seeing it live on Twitter. They're seeing the videos, how close it is to where they are. They can find all the information. What I was shocked was, I don't know, this is me. I would like to have Canada have a response to say, don't worry, we're making plans to get people out right now. We have this little operation group called JTF2, Joint Task Force 2. They are the world's best. And other special forces will tell you this. I know special forces guys, they're the world's best at going in and getting people out of places. World's best, bar none. Ask a Delta Force guy, a SEAL, an Israeli Mossad agent, who do you want to come get me out? They'd say, go get me JTF2. No one knows how good that they are. So I said, why are they not being sent down to the border to hook up with the U.S. Military? Why aren't we getting a couple of Globemaster planes, those giant planes being sent down? Hey, we're sending them down to Texas, and when the time is right, we'll get them across or something. Like, why not show some action rather than I'll text you this to stay in your room and be safe? That's not much help.
It has been, I would think, tepid and kind of slow, but I guess Anita Anand finally saying this: Mexico hopes violence will calm in coming days, says Anita Anand, while urging caution. I mean, that's all they've got. Minister says Canadians in affected states should still follow shelter-in-place orders. Yeah, I would definitely say stay off the streets if you can. I mean, if you see any potential danger. And I also found it fascinating that you said that the U.S. may, if Americans are killed during the retribution against whoever is responsible for the death of El Mencho, then the fact that troops could be headed to Mexico would be huge. I mean, but you're saying that's a possibility from what you've heard?
Trump said that to the Taliban in the Middle East. He had the guys, he said to them, if one more American gets killed here going forward, we're going to wipe you out. And the ambassador who was talking to the Taliban guy pulled out a picture of the guy he was talking to at the front door to his house and said, here, have a look at this. One more American gets it, you're going to get it. I have no doubt that Donald Trump will make sure that that message is conveyed to the heads of the cartel. I got no doubt that he will convey that message.
And let's not forget that there's a Mexican cartel connection in Canada, of course, along with the Chinese. They've got labs in Canada, don't they? And in some cases, super labs. At least one that I know of was stopped, was attacked essentially by people were arrested and put a stop to the operation in that lab. But there's a strong connection and a growing connection between these Mexican cartels in Canada. They see the border, the northern border of the United States, as quite porous, as maybe something that would allow them to continue operating in a way even more so than the southern border. Is that fair?
Oh, look, that's the way the cartels operate. That's why Mexico is called, not lightly by people, a narco state, meaning that the drug lords run it. They decide who's going to be the mayor and who's going to do what. And look, for all the Canadians who've been going to Mexico for the longest time and they feel safe down there, there's a reason for that. Because the cartels know that killing all the tourists is bad for business, and the tourists are down there buying the drugs when they're down there, sort of thing. You do not want to kill a tourist, right? That kills the destination and all the people that are around you, sort of thing, down there. And the cartels, they go down there, they get woven into the police departments, into the politicians, and we've had it up here in Canada. One of the most senior intelligence people for the RCMP was doing that. He created a whole thing where he was making untraceable, unbuggable BlackBerry phones and running a network and selling them to drug cartels so they could conduct their business. And we're certainly having issues right now where we're looking at it, even in Toronto, with organized crime, potentially and allegedly being involved with the Toronto Police Service. So you can absolutely bet if the cartel operates that way down there, they will operate that way up here. It's their playbook.
Yeah, you make a great point about Mexican tourism. And here the cartels are saying, you mess with us, we'll mess with you. So the tens of millions that you bring in from tourists, well, you can kiss that goodbye because of what you did, your cooperation with the Americans to kill El Mencho. We're going to cost you an infinite amount of tourist dollars because of that. So that makes sense now, doesn't it? In terms of, it's not just retribution. It's sending a message to the government saying, you mess with us, we will mess with your huge revenue source here being tourism. Is that what you think might be going on?
Oh, I absolutely, that's what's going on. Absolutely, that's going on. Trump could just turn around tomorrow with the Secretary of Transport and say, that's it. We're closing the border. No more trips, no more flights, no more nothing into Mexico. And a lot of money gets repatriated back to Mexico too. There's so many Mexicans that live in the U.S., right? I mean, Mexicans have really spread out a lot from Mexico. We've got lots of great Mexican diaspora here, even in Canada. So I've got no doubt that those are the words that are going on. So where does it go from here? Well, it depends on the level of threat that's being made and what message is being delivered. But at this point, I would not want to be the one that's testing Donald Trump's patience too far on this.
Absolutely. How do people consume your content online?
Yeah, they can catch me over at McLean Chronicles for my YouTube. And of note on there, I do have one video that dealt with an active shooter that was in New York before, who went up to the NFL offices. And I give some tips in there about how to protect yourself in the event of an active shooter, what you do. And I think I'm going to make one up, do a video on this Mexican one to talk about what you do, because we're seeing this unrest can break out anywhere now. You could be in any city anywhere in the world, and all of a sudden this unrest could break out.
Absolutely. Ross, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark.